verse 19 where he talks about breaking the bread, and you go to verse 20, the next thing he's looking towards is the new covenant with the blood he's going to share it for us. How do you see him looking towards the mother at that point?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, it was in the context of the Mass that I was making that comment, but it was more specifically from the scripture about Jesus on the cross. Not at the Mass, breaking of the bread, but Jesus on the cross, looking at the woman, looking at the bride, looking at the mother. In other words, this was for the woman. The sacrifice was an espousal sacrifice. It was so that all things would be reconciled to God. And so he has never taken his eyes off the woman, which is the beauty of that painting from Nazareth. The mystery of Jesus is purely the mystery of the bridegroom, where he beholds what he has given his entire flesh for, the church, from the very beginning, and Mary has always been the symbol of the church, until the very end, when he is on the cross itself. And he is still thinking of her. He's thinking of her as the church as a whole, but he's also thinking of her in a particular way, in the way that he commends the priesthood to Mary when he gives John to Mary at the foot of the cross.
How do you feel that the feminist movement in today's culture has derailed the role of the father, and what do you suggest to us as women to help support fathers in their roles as being protectors of this mystery?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to comment on the feminist movement as a whole, but obviously the feminist movement as a whole is not corrupted. It's the sense of taking the worst of masculine weaknesses and trying to make them your own. So workaholism or domination or grasping for power. In other words, these are the great struggles of the man. And so the feminist movement, going off the rails, to some extent, as I see it, took some of the worst aspects of the masculine and then tried to make it their own. Positively, and John Paul has been the great repairer of this, if there's been any undermining of the dignity of women in the church, but positively, in your own words, you answered your question about the interior, what he calls feminine genius. And I think that's what Benedict was getting at regarding Joseph and Mary's relationship, is that if we as men could actually, and this is what women have been crying for since the beginning of time with us, if we could actually listen, we would be healed as men. If we could actually listen to the woman, we would be healed. And not in the crass way that a lot of politicized understanding of the relationship between women and men is in the church. Because most people today only have a political imagination. They do not have a theological imagination. So they only think in terms of rights and power and position. So I'm not talking about, oh, will you bishops please listen to us women and give us power. That's simply the political imagination. It's too anemic. At the very depths, though, of this Marian listening, in other words, to listen to the woman who has fully received the mystery through her yes. When a man listens to that in his wife, in the sisters of our church, when he listens to that, he's healed. When he listens to the intimacy that a woman has with God, the man is healed. I think that's the true feminine movement.
Dr. Keating, I wanted to come to you as the father of a priest and also as a son who is in his third year in the seminary for being a priest. And I want to say that some of the stuff you put on the board is is very important. However, from my own personal experience, I never ever had any problems talking to my sons or them talking to me. But I was probably one of the last ones to know that they were going to be a priest. However, the Archbishop came to me when my first son decided to be a priest. And he said, I need to ask you a question. And I said, sure. And he said, what kind of pressure did you put on your son to be a priest? And I said, hold on a second. I said, I would never do that. This is his decision to become a priest. And I said, I do support him in that decision, but I would never, ever force any of my children to make that kind of decision in life. What I'm trying to say to most of you here, when my children were coming up, they had the same problems that all of your children had. They'd get in arguments. They would do all kinds of things. We would be riding in the car. We might even be going to Mass. And they would get in an argument. And I'd say, time out. We're going to say a decade of the Rosary. And we would all start praying the Rosary. By the time we were finished with the decade of the Rosary, we usually was pretty close to church. But the argument was over. And, you know, all I'm telling you is this is spiritual food that needs to go through all the families. Your children, your grandchildren, in all, the problems of vocations lies in the family's attitude toward receiving Christ and understanding that we all belong to Him. One other thing I would like to say is I went to a vocation night with young men and women from a Catholic high school in Mobile, Alabama. This young man walks up, and our Archbishop is sitting there, and I introduced him with his mother standing there, and I said, Reverend Archbishop, this young man is how did I put it? I said, he is a suspect for the priesthood. And his mother, blatantly, so everyone in the whole auditorium could hear her, says, oh no, never will my son become a priest. The Archbishop does like this, and I'm saying to myself, ladies, somebody needs to hit you upside the head with a 2x4. It's remarkable how the parent does not understand God's plan for all of us. The parent right then and there was sealing the fate of that son who had a calling because he was there that night to see if maybe he had a vocation. And I can tell you that there's probably many of your family members that have discouraged others because they didn't see a priest in the young man who might have had a calling. And so I caution you, many of you, that what he's showing you on the board is important. But I would like to add one thing to what I saw that's up there, is that I think that if put into Catholic high schools and grammar schools, praying for vocations every day as a required part of the curriculum, you will see more vocations coming out.
Thank you.
In your talk today, I felt that you talked about what. You gave us a lot of what, but you didn't give us anything about how. And I really feel that in doing this how, I feel that it is really Serra International's task to develop how do we get the family into the state of grace and be able to do that? How do we do it? Do we do it as he had suggested We have prayer in the church every day, a little bulletin and so forth. But I really, again, we Serrans must develop with our bishops and priests a program of how do we get this family from changing, as that gentleman has said, that father said, no way, that we get him to change, maybe, or who knows. That is our task. We as Serrans, is our main task is to get into that family so we can develop an environment where priests, when they are called or people are called, they know they're called and they can answer, yes, Lord.
Thank you.
Doctor, I can appreciate very, very much of what you said. My wife and I are blessed with a son who is a priest. And as a Serran, I'm especially proud of that. But about a week ago, I got a note from a fellow Serran who was quoting Pope Benedict at one of his conferences. And the Pope said that you parents who are parents of priests, you have a new vocation. Your vocation did not stop at ordination. Your vocation is a lifelong vocation to promote and support that priest. And I just thought that at this time, since we are all here talking about promoting vocations to the priesthood, I think what the Pope has said there should go out to all of us Serrans. Our job is not done just when they're ordained. We should, especially in the year of the priest, promote all of our priests, all of our religious, and all of our children as long as we can.
Thank you. Sure, thank you all, and especially thank you for your hospitality toward the Institute for Priestly Formation, and please keep our mission in your prayers. Thank you very much.